So some things to think about are the fact that if you believe the GOP owns the military, then they would have used them on No Kings, right? They would have marched the military right up against the No Kings protesters and gone to town. And that didn't happen. That didn't even get close. Like there was zero violence, except for some Magites who got arrested during that whole thing. The other thing is, voting. Hey, my vote doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's all rigged. Rockland is still coming up in November. There's still more to follow there, so that'll be interesting. And that's getting the shit suppressed out of it, so go look into that. But you had this guy, Paul Inracia, I think his name, and he pulled his nomination for office of special counsel because he was pushing out stuff like, hey, I have a Nazi streak and racist texts and, MLK is in hell or should be in hell and all those things, like just abhorrent shit. So he pulled his nomination for that. And because Republican senators said, we're not going to vote for him, like completely evaporated. And you don't do that unless you're worried about getting voted out. So please, and remember all these special elections that are, just going the Democrats' way in a dominant way. Remember that, like that voting still counts. So it's a state, voting is a state process. Remember that. And however it goes in the midterms, especially if it goes poorly for Trump and the GOP, like they'll bitch about it and be like, oh, rigging, but not where they won. None of that. And never that. And they own the government. So that'll be really hard to swing their voters on, if you will. So just remember that. They wouldn't have pulled the support for Gracia if they weren't worried about being voted back in. Like, that is still, for a lot of them, the Nazi, heavily racist stuff. They have to worry about that. But also something to think about is the fact that he was Trump's pick. He was his pick. So they knew about that shit. It wasn't leaked. They knew about that. Like you have the full weight of the government to vet somebody. They knew about that. The Trump administration and a large part of the Republican Party is a Nazi party. And there are some in there, Republican politicians, who don't want anything to do with that. And a lot of it has to do with them worrying about being voted back in. But a lot of them are Nazi party. And I think that's even pulling some of their voters away. And they know that. So that's why they have to push back on it. So if you own the military, they would have been all over the No Kings protests, pushing in there. And if the voting was truly rigged, then they wouldn't have given a shit about this Nazi stuff. And they would have just, put him into special counsel. So just things to think about. Thanks.